What drives a person to destroy something beautiful, something that belongs to everyone? In the quiet town of Willow Creek, where the air carried the scent of blooming roses and children's laughter echoed through the community garden, a single act of malice changed everything. Karen Whitmore, a woman known for her pristine lawn and sharp tongue, stood at the heart of it all, her actions unraveling a tapestry of trust woven over decades. This is the story of a garden's ruin, a town's heartbreak, and the bitter cost of vengeance. The garden was Willow Creek's pride, a vibrant patchwork of daisies, tulips, and rare Karen roses, delicate pink blooms named after a botanist, not the woman who would become their destroyer. It was a place where old men played chess under oak trees, where teenagers stole first kisses behind the hydrangeas, and where single mother Lila Torres found solace tending to her small plot of marigolds. Lila, with her calloused hands and warm smile, was the garden's unofficial caretaker, pouring her heart into every bud and leaf. She'd moved to Willow Creek after escaping a past she never spoke of, her daughter Sophia trailing behind her like a shadow. The garden was their sanctuary, a place where they could rebuild. Karen Whitmore, on the other hand, lived across the street in a house that gleamed with perfection. Her lawn was manicured to the millimeter, her driveway free of even a speck of dust. To Karen, the garden was an Isoria, chaotic sprawl of colors and people who didn't belong in her vision of order. She'd complained for years. The noise, the weeds, the riffraff who lingered too long. But the town council dismissed her petitions, and the garden flourished, a defiant burst of life in the face of her disdain. It began with whispers. Lila noticed the Karen roses wilting first, their petals curling inward like clenched fists. Then the marigolds drooped, their golden heads bowing to the earth. By the third day, entire patches of the garden were dying, the soil reeking of something acrid, unnatural. The town buzzed with confusion and grief. Who would poison their haven? Lila, her heart sinking, spent nights digging through the dirt, testing samples with a kit she'd borrowed from the local nursery. The results confirmed her worst fears. Herbicide, poured deliberately, systematically, across every inch of the garden. Suspicion fell on Karen almost immediately. Her public rants about the garden were no secret, and a grainy security camera from the library across the street caught a figure in a hooded jacket slipping into the garden at midnight, a jug in hand. The town's anger simmered, but it was Lila who confronted Karen at the next council meeting, her voice trembling with fury. "You did this, didn't you? You killed our garden." Karen's face was a mask of indifference, her lips curling into a smirk. "Prove it," she said, and the room fell silent. The investigation was swift but agonizing. Sheriff Amos Reed, a grizzled man nearing retirement, took the lead. He was no stranger to Karen's complaints, having fielded dozens about barking dogs and untidy neighbors. But this was different. This was destruction on a scale that cut deep. Amos interviewed everyone, from the garden's volunteers to the teenagers who hung out there. He found no hard evidence until a surprise witness emerged. Ethan, a shy high schooler who worked weekends at the hardware store. Ethan, with his nervous stutter and downcast eyes, admitted he'd sold Karen a large quantity of herbicide a week before the garden died. She said it was for her backyard. He mumbled, guilt etched into his young face. "I didn't know." The twist came when Ethan revealed something else. He'd seen Karen arguing with a man in the store's parking lot that same day. The man, later identified as Marcus Tate, was a drifter who'd been in town for only a month, doing odd jobs. Marcus had a reputation for being volatile, his temper flaring at the smallest slight. Ethan overheard him muttering about teaching the town a lesson after Karen slipped him cash. The revelation stunned the community. Was Karen the mastermind, or had she manipulated someone else into doing her dirty work? Amos tracked Marcus down, but the man had vanished, leaving only rumors and a single empty herbicide jug found in a dumpster behind the diner. The trial was a spectacle. Karen, dressed in crisp white, maintained her innocence, her lawyer arguing that the evidence was circumstantial. But Lila's testimony, raw and tear-soaked, swayed the jury. She spoke of the garden's meaning, how it had given her and Sophia a reason to hope, how it had brought strangers together as family. "She took that from us?" Lila said, her voice breaking. "She took it from all of us." The jury deliberated for only 2 hours before delivering their verdict. Guilty. Karen was fined $200,000, an astronomical sum for Willow Creek, and ordered to replant every inch of the garden under Lila's supervision. The courtroom erupted in cheers, but Lila's eyes were hollow. Justice felt like a bandage on a wound too deep to heal. The replanting was a public ordeal. Karen, stripped of her polished exterior, worked under the summer sun, her hands blistered from shoveling soil. Lila watched her every move, her anger warring with pity. The town showed up in droves, not to help but to witness Karen's humiliation. Children whispered, adults sneered, and Karen's defiance crumbled into silence. Yet the garden didn't recover easily. The soil, tainted by chemicals, resisted new life. Lila worked tirelessly, mixing compost, testing pH, coaxing fragile seedlings to take root. Sophia, now 12, helped too, her small hands planting marigolds with a determination that broke Lila's heart. As weeks turned to months, a second twist emerged. Marcus Tate was found, arrested in a neighboring county for petty theft. Under questioning, he confessed to pouring the herbicide, claiming Karen had paid him $500 to fix her problem. But he added something no one expected. Karen hadn't acted alone. She'd been egged on by a group of homeowners who shared her disdain for the garden's messiness. They'd met in secret, feasibly plotting to pressure the council into shutting the garden down. Karen was the one who acted, but she wasn't the only one who wanted it gone. The revelation fractured the town further, turning neighbor against neighbor. Trust, once the garden's lifeblood, was now as poisoned as the soil. The final blow came quietly. On the last day of replanting, as Karen shoveled the final patch of earth, Lila found a small, unmarked tin buried in the soil. Inside were ashes not from the garden but human. A note, scrawled in shaky handwriting, read, "My Emily loved this garden. You took her from me." Forensic tests later confirmed the ashes belonged to Emily Harper, a beloved teacher who died a year earlier and whose ashes had been scattered in the garden per her wishes. Karen's act hadn't just killed flowers, it had desecrated a sacred memory. The town, already raw, turned on her with a vengeance. The fine and labor were nothing compared to the weight of knowing she'd destroyed something irreplaceable. Karen left Willow Creek soon after. Her house sold, her name a curse whispered in the streets. The garden slowly came back to life, but it was different, scarred like the people who tended it. Lila and Sophia planted a new bed of Karen roses, a quiet tribute to Emily. At the dedication ceremony, Lila spoke, her voice steady but heavy. "This garden is more than flowers. It's user love, our loss, our fight to keep going." The crowd wept, and Sophia clutched her mother's hand. But the victory was bitter. The garden bloomed again, but the town's heart never fully mended. Trust, once broken, doesn't regrow like roses. Karen's punishment was just, but it couldn't undo the damage. The Karen roses stood as a reminder. Beauty can be fragile, and hate leaves scars deeper than any fine can cover. ND.